Uh, General, we welcome you in Russia today, and let's start with the latest development in Pakistan. Security situations in Karachi. There are some turbulences in Balochistan in the south of Pakistan. How do you see the future of the security scenario in Pakistan, in your opinion?
Pakistan security is has been in a state of great stress for the last 30 years with the occupation of Afghanistan by the Soviets, then the civil war in Afghanistan, and then occupation by United States and the Allies. And I always have called that the mother of all evil is occupation of Afghanistan, and that has an impact on Pakistan. If you look at it, what happened during the 90s when the Soviets were there, Pakistan became the center of resistance against the Soviets. And naturally, when such a big event takes place, so many people converge from all parts of the world. According to the CIA, 70 countries, from 70 countries, Mujahideen came to fight against the Soviets. And when the Soviets withdrew, Mujahideen who had come from far off country, they went back, except for those like Osama and Al Qaeda, who were not allowed to return. According to my judgment, there were good about 40,000 Pakistanis who took part in the jihad in Afghanistan. So the freedom movement by the Afghan people was supported by the jihadis from all over the world, and that created a Islamic resistance force which became so effective against the Americans when they occupied Afghanistan in 2001. And it is nothing more, nothing less than a movement for freedom which has been demonized by the Americans by calling them as terrorists, by naming them as Al Qaeda, although Al Qaeda is a very small force. It is the movement for freedom by the Afghans, by the people who came to support the Afghan in their freedom against the American occupation. As a result of this war which has been going on in Afghanistan since 2001, other allies of the Americans like the Indians, they established a very large spy network in Afghanistan, and as a result of that, by the year 2003-2004, they were able to destabilize our border areas, the border province of Balochistan and the border regions of our northwestern frontier province. As a result of this upheaval, many people from these border regions moved towards Karachi, where many families of the Pakhtuns were living, and many Afghans who came to Pakistan, roughly about 3.5 million, many of them still continue to live in Pakistan. So it created a social problem, demographic imbalance in Karachi in particular. And what we find today from one part of Pakistan to another is as a result of this intervention, occupation of Afghanistan and the fighting which is going on. And as you all know that over the period, the Indians, the Americans and the allies in Afghanistan, they succeeded in turning the war against Pakistan, the Afghan war against Pakistan. And for the last 6 years now, our army is fighting our own tribals because their loyalty has been subverted. They have been penetrated with the agents from across the border. And that is the greatest, I would say, danger to Pakistan's security, right from Karachi to NWFP and to the Swat region. And that is what is the problem that we face today.
in 2006, precisely, I read an article in the Defense Changes Defense magazines that suggests that Pakistan would be in the future a divided state. Baluchistan will be a separate, NWFP will be merged with Afghanistan. So Pakistan will be left only with Punjab and partially Sindh, and Kashmir would go to India. Today, 2 days back, I read the same articles in New York Times newspaper. They have referred that Pakistanis are worried about the possible divisions of the Pakistani state. How do you see the future of this map, and how do you think that their present scenario in Pakistan would lead virtually to divide the Pakistani states?
That precisely was the design when the Americans and the Indians they signed the strategic partnership in 2005. The declared objective was to contain the rising power of China, to contain the rising threat of Islamic extremism in the region. And soon after, the Americans they declared that to give Indians the advantage of hegemony from Afghanistan to Pakistan down to Sri Lanka, they said henceforth Afghanistan will be considered as part of South Asia, although we all know that Afghanistan is part of Central Asia. The purpose was to establish Indian hegemony over the region, because India was prepared to play a proxy for United States. And this is what was the original design. And with that purpose, as I mentioned, that a large spy network was established in Afghanistan to destabilize those regions like Balochistan, Karachi and Sindh, and our northwestern regions of Swat, Dir and Bajaur. And these areas were infested with agents. And a time came when during Musharraf days in 2004, 2005, that the Americans prompted General Pervez Musharraf to clear Waziristan area, and foolishly he put the army behind them. It was since 2004, 2005 that the army started its action in South Waziristan area, that we have been fighting our tribals all the way from South Waziristan to Dir Bajaur and to Swat area. And more than 3,000 of our civilians, our troops have been killed in this fighting, more than what the Americans and their allies have suffered in Afghanistan itself. So what you say was true, but Alhamdulillah, Pakistan has been able to frustrate these designs. We are strong enough and we are conscious about this threat, and we have taken measures that these designs by the enemies are not implemented and Pakistan remains united. I can assure you that there is no threat to Pakistan's integrity. Pakistan has remained one solid country, and inshallah it will remain a united country in the years to come.
The theory says that there are, do you believe in the conspiracy theory that is in the regions or maybe in the Middle East? Once you said in one of your articles and your statements that the conspiracy theory is there, the Blackwater, the CIA are targeting the region. They stand behind the assassination of the ex-Prime Minister Rafiq al-Hariri in Lebanon, and also the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto. Do you still believe in that? The conspiracy theory is still on.
Well, a lot is being said about this conspiracy theory. It is true that Pakistan has been subjected to such conspiracies, and they tried to implement. In some cases they have succeeded, in other cases they have not. With regard to the assassination of Prime Minister Bhutto, difficult to say because our inquiry is not yet complete to blame anybody. But what I would say that there have been conspiracies after conspiracies. The recent one, which I wrote only about 10 days back, with regard to what is happening in Pakistan in relation to the situation in Karachi particularly. Yeah. I wrote the article saying that the proxy war and politics in Pakistan, they have mixed together to create the dilemma for Karachi people. And in that I said that United States was not happy with the military in Pakistan, was not happy with the intelligence in Pakistan. And as a result of that, the government of Pakistan was not willing to oblige and accept many of the terms which they wanted to be followed. Now, they got so desperate because they are desperate at the moment. They have been defeated in Afghanistan. They want a safe exit. Nobody is prepared to give them a safe exit. The Taliban are quite determined to stand and fight and see that they are pushed out of Afghanistan. So they wanted a new government in Pakistan, a new chief of army staff, and therefore they tried to bring about a process of regime change in Pakistan. And they are the one who actually prompted the MQM in Karachi to leave the government, and then they encouraged the other opposition parties to form a grand opposition alliance and to create problem for the present government, so that the government falls, a new government is installed, which I am sure the Americans have the wherewithal to establish a government of their liking. And when that government was formed, then they will not extend the tenure of the present army chief. They will have a new army chief which will be obliging to them, and that's how they wanted a government in Pakistan, an army chief who will be very much for the Americans, will be listening to them like Musharraf in the past and the government in the past. But it did not happen because Zardari was cleverer of them all. He moved fast to contain MQM and has been able to cut them down to size. And that is what you heard the other day, the interview by Mr. Altaf Hussain from London, how desperate and hopeless he was sounding. Because when ultimately I have commented on this situation that the plan for regime change has failed, Zardari has won, MQM has been decimated and defeated, and now a new situation emerges where I would say that the condition as they are obtaining today, there will be a more peaceful environment emerging in Karachi, which has a deep impact on the overall security situation of the country.
Today, after almost 10 years, maybe more, of the event of 9/11, in your opinion, where Pakistan and Afghanistan stands, and how do you perceive the offing of the Afghan case? And the most importantly, in your opinion, who stands behind the event of 9/11?
First, I will talk about the situation in Afghanistan, our relations with Afghanistan, the future of the occupation forces, and then about 9/11.
Yes.
I mean, as you know that during General Zia days, we stood by the Afghans to fight against Soviet occupation.
Absolutely.
During Musharraf days, we joined the war against them, and that was the reason that when Musharraf he called for consultation, I was one of them who were called for consultation, and I opposed him strongly. That was 23rd of September 2001, and I said this was immoral, illogical to join a war against a brotherly, neighborly country, Afghanistan, who had done no harm to us. It will recoil back on us and will have serious consequences on Pakistan's security. I also said at that time that remember this will turn out to be the Vietnam of the invading forces. People laughed at me at that time, but now I laugh at the people and look at the conditions through which the occupation forces are going through, with no promise in sight to have a safe exit from Afghanistan, because the occupation forces have not accepted their defeat. Like the Soviets, 1989 they accepted their defeat. They asked us to get them a clean exit from Afghanistan. We were in good terms with the Afghan Mujahideen at that time. We convinced them and they allowed the Afghan troops to leave Afghanistan untouched. Not one single soldier was hurt.
Musharraf at that time, he was threatened by the American administrations, precisely by Richard Armitage. He threatened Musharraf, told him that I will put Pakistan to the stone age. Do you think if you were in his shoes at that time, would you support maybe instead of attacking Afghanistan, they would attack Pakistan?
Well, as a people, as a country, I would have acted the same as the Turks responded when the American forces were ready in 2003 to invade Iraq. The Turks, they are much closer ally of United States.
Yes.
They said, sorry, we cannot allow foreign forces to pass through our territory and invade Afghanistan, a brotherly Islam and Iraq and brotherly Islamic country. What harm have they done to Iraq, to Turkey? They dare not do any harm to Pakistan. They would have repented for their life. Musharraf was a coward. He buckled before them. He should have stood up as the leader of a brave nation like Pakistan and would have said no. Americans could have done no harm to Pakistan, and if at all they thought of attacking Pakistan, they would have suffered a much shameful defeat than what they have suffered in Afghanistan. That is what is the nation of Pakistan, and it is a shame that we have leaders who don't know which nation they are leading and what is the tradition and the resilience of a nation like Pakistani nation. Today, what is happening in Afghanistan is as a result of that. As I told you that because of this wrong decision, this illogical decision, because from that day onwards, since 23rd of September 2001, I never met Musharraf, we never talked to each other because of this difference of opinion. I have been proved right that this war in Afghanistan has proved to be a Vietnam for the Americans. Worse than that, today Pakistan is in no position to tell the Taliban that give them a safe exit, because they consider us also as an enemy because we joined the enemy to invade Afghanistan. Still, I must give credit to the people of Afghanistan that despite all that, they have not tried to harm Pakistan. They have not fired a single bullet against Pakistan. They still consider Pakistan as a neighborly, friendly country, despite all that we have done to them. The dilemma today is that the Americans and the occupation forces have no guarantee of safe withdrawal from Afghanistan, and that is the biggest hurdle in their way. And our ability to mediate, our ability to let the Americans leave Afghanistan, I think it is beyond our capability at the moment. With regard to 9/11, as I said earlier on, I have been saying that it was beyond the physical, mental capability of the Al-Qaeda to stage such a big event at the center of United States in New York, to hit the Twin Towers. It was an internal, I think, matter. There are so many lobbies, so many interest groups working in United States, and there is so much of books and comments already made by various researchers and scholars who say the same thing, that this was not an act done by the Al-Qaeda. It was beyond them. Because about Al-Qaeda, I have always maintained that they created a facade of Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda has been a very weak force when the Soviets withdrew, hardly about 1,500 of them, and that too gradually dissipated. And as you have seen that under the condition uh, Osama's family was living in Abbottabad, it was a miserable state. A person who is considered to be so powerful, challenging the sole superpower of the world, his family living in such miserable conditions. And he himself was supposed to be living over there, which is not true. So there have been lies after lies, and the Americans and the West have built up the facade to demonize the freedom movement by the people of Afghanistan, to demonize the freedom movement by the people of Iraq. And you have seen that it is the people of Afghanistan, it is the people of Iraq who have defeated them thoroughly in their war of liberation, and now they are at a point where Afghanistan will be free, so will be the people of Iraq.
General, let me take you to out of South Asian regions and not far away. It's Middle East, where the spring revolutions, as they call it now, the spring revolutions in the Middle East, what's happening in Egypt, in Libya, in Yemen, and Syria. First, do you think what's happening in the Middle East, it is self-created revolutions without any external power interventions, or do you think it is something has to happen due to some 30 years of suppressions on the Arab regimes? And secondly, do you think that these revolutions could affect what's happening in the South Asia from developments?
Well, for the last 30 years, it is the Muslim world which is under attack. The first invasion by the Soviets, then by the Americans, then they made the two countries, Iran and Iraq, they fight. The Israelis, they invaded Lebanon. And when you see in totality, the impact of all these events, to my mind, is as great as the impact of World War II. Because so many new realities emerge, new forces are generated, new centers of power come to existence. For example, this is as a result of this attack and invasion, occupation of the Muslim world in particular, where more than 6 million Muslims, innocent men, women and children have been killed. That goes unaccounted for. That there are, I would say, three new centers of power which have emerged. One is the global Islamic resistance, which fought against the Soviets, forced them out of Afghanistan, which is fighting against the Americans, and the Europeans have defeated them in Afghanistan. This is the same people who fought against the Israelis in Lebanon, defeated Israel. These are the forces which I would say are really determining the contours of the New World Order. Because if this force was not there, today the Americans would have been dominating most of the world, unchallenged. Russia was not in a position to challenge them. China was not in a position to challenge them. Entirely a new global picture would have emerged. So this is one major development of this of these events which have taken place in the last 30 years. But the redeeming feature is that this Islamic resistance is a transitory force. Once the job is done, when the enemy has been forced to vacate the Islamic territory, this force melts away back to their hearth and home. This is the phenomena we found when the Soviets had led Afghanistan, and now you will find when the Americans leave Afghanistan, they will go back. They have no other interest in the region. That is one of the defining features of this Islamic resistance, which is feared by the West, that probably they will spread their ideology over the entire world. No, they are only confined and specific to the task they came, they did, and they go back. Now, the second, as a result of this struggle, a second power has emerged, that is the Pashtun power. Pashtun power, which provided the base for the movement against the resistance against the Soviets, and again the American occupation of Afghanistan. It extends from Karachi to the Hindu Kush. In Karachi there are more than 4 million Pakhtuns, and it is a reality which is there, and it is the hard fighting core, the core of resistance of the Islamic world. And as per the American security advisor of George Bush, that Pakhtun power is the greatest threat to their interest in the region, and they say this power must be defeated and contained, and that is precisely what they try to do, and they have failed. Now the second power which has emerged is the Shia power. Yeah. From Iran to Iraq to Bahrain to Syria to the minority living in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and this is as a result of what all has happened in the last 30 years, and that is a force to be reckoned with. And as you all know that for the last 10 years the American design is that they want the Shia and Sunni countries to fight against each other. That's how they can contain them. That's how they can curb their rising. And to give you one example, that during the last 10 years, Americans in particular have so much demonized Iran that the Sunni countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and UAE, they have bought military hardware worth over $140 billion, preparing to fight against the Iranian threat. Now, this conspiracy to make the Sunnis and Shias fight has taken a shape in Bahrain recently. Yeah. You see the same Saudi forces and the UAE forces have gone into Bahrain to quell the rebellion against the ruling junta over there. So this is the kind of design which is emerging, and this is as a result of these happening in the last 30 years. And there is one more, I would say, ideological surge which is now clearly visible. Now, there are schools of thoughts, two major schools of thought emerging from Central Asia, the Naqshbandi and the Qadriya. You have seen that the model for one is Turkey, the model for the other from Central Asia we don't have yet, but we can't say that Afghanistan is the model, but that is the movement which has become more visible. And there are smaller movements like the movement in Saudi Arabia, the movement here in Pakistan, in South Asia, like the Deobandi movement, and it corresponds to the movement to the revolution in Iran, because these are the movements which are led by the mullahs, led by the clergy. But Qadriya and Naqshbandi movements, they have also emerged. For example, Egypt is emerging with Ikhwan-e-Muslimin and all as another model, and that is a force which is emerging and will have an impact not only in the region of Central Asia and in the Gulf region, but also beyond it. And when you take into account these new powers of center which have emerged, the Pakhtun power, the Shia power, and the existing religious schools of thought which have a very vast area of influence taken together, give a new picture to the entire Muslim world. It has ignited the imagination of the people of the Muslim world. As a result of that, the spring in the Arab world, it is the impact of all that has happened, and of course the impact of globalization is there, where people want to be free, people want to have democracy, people want to have lot of say in their internal matters, because we have seen there have been dynastic rule in these countries which have lasted for decades, and people have rebelled against these rules. So this is a big change which has come about. When you have such events taking place, new forces are released, and that is the phenomena we are witnessing today in this part of the world and beyond in the Muslim world.
In the emerging scenarios we just now discussed, whether in South Asia or in the Middle East, where the security of the nuclear arsenal stands here in Pakistan, and how do you respond to the controversial questions or charges against you that you have transferred the nuclear technology to Iran or some other countries?
Well, the first thing which is being talked about is the safety of our nuclear assets. I would say that our nuclear program is unique amongst all the nuclear programs of the world. This was the only program where late Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he declared to the world that since India had exploded a device in '74, Pakistan will acquire a nuclear weapon capability. And he formed a team under Dr. Qadir and let him go and search and find the technology from anywhere he wanted. No nuclear capable country was prepared to give that technology. But all the technology is available with the nuclear underworld. And that is where Dr. Qadir, he went, he searched, he bought, and he got the technology, and he was able to enrich uranium, and then he was able to put a device together and give Pakistan a capability in a short period of less than 10 years. This was what the mission assigned by Mr. Bhutto, the task accomplished by Dr. Qadir Khan, and then in 1989, Benazir Bhutto was the Prime Minister, she put a restraint on our program, knowing fully well that our program was India specific, only India. We had just about less than a dozen devices. India had more than 60, but she said no point in building a stockpile of nuclear weapons and fissile material. And that was a very wise decision to adopt a policy of nuclear restraint, and enrichment of uranium was brought down from 95 and above to 5 and below. Ever since we have followed this device, but over the period there is new development that Pakistan has gone for improving the nuclear program, that miniaturization of the nuclear device. From 20 kT we came down to 5 kT, to 2 kT, to 1 kT. And now you have seen our missiles which have been experimented recently. They can carry smaller nuclear warheads to a range of 300, 500 kilometers, and this is relevant between us and India in case India wants to have a surprise attack against Pakistan. That is what, to the limit up to which our program is limited. The fourth element of our program is that it has been, by the grace of Allah, the safest program so far in the world. We never had any accident. We never had any leakage. And then during Musharraf time, one good thing he did, that he asked the Americans to advise us how to make our nuclear assets safe and well protected and well guarded. So we have adopted a system which is the best in the world. So there is no threat of any leakage, any fear of it falling in the wrong hands, because we know how to guard it. We have very foolproof security system. We have the armed forces. We have the means to protect them 24 hours a day. Not even the Americans, if they want to come and take away that capability from us, I can assure you they cannot.
Right, General, thank you very much for being with us with Russia Today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure.